Hello and welcome back to 科博 Say Hello, the podcast brought to you by the National Museum of Natural Science in Taichung, Taiwan. I'm Dr. Audrey, and today we are fortunate enough to continue our conversation with Wu Xiaorou. You might remember that she was a guest on our podcast last week, where she talked about some of the work she's done in the past and some of the work that she's interested in pursuing in the future as a paleontologist. So today we are going to follow up on that conversation because I think she has so much more for us to learn about. So Xiaorou, I know that you recently took a road trip in the United States to visit some of the museums there. Can you tell me where you went and why you took this trip?
Okay, me again. The first one, we go to the North Carolina State Museum of Natural History or Natural Science. Yeah, and the primary mission for me is to visit a professor because I want to study in her lab. So, and at the same time, we visit in the museum at the close day. So there is no crowd people, and we visit in the hall. And the next stop, we go to the New York. We go to the American Museum of Natural History. Yeah, and the museum is so giant. And
Yes.
we enter the museum at the open time. And we didn't see the entire exhibition because we stay here all day long, but we cannot go all the entire exhibition in a day. And the third step, we go to the Washington. We go to the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Yeah.
I know the natural history, natural science, it's hard to keep straight.
Yeah, and I think the Washington Museum exhibition, the fossil hall, it's to update recently because I think the board on it is newer and he has some new information and some knowledge recently. So I think it is cool to see the old museum update their board on it. Yeah,
Absolutely. These are three museums that are all very, very focused on paleontology as well as other practices in the natural sciences, but they are all certainly very well known for their dinosaur and fossil collections. Can you tell us a little bit about how museum collections support research?
Oh, for my experience, I use the National Museum of Natural Science, our museum. I have to collect a lot of data of the dinosaur eggs. And our museum have so many Raptor and one of Sauropod and Hadrosaurs clutch specimen. So I can measure it and use to my data. So I think the specimen in the museum are important for some research. They don't have the fund to go to abroad to see the specimen, but they can use the specimen in the museum.
Does the National Museum of Natural Science that you just mentioned, do they frequently trade fossils and other specimens with peer museums in the United States or in Europe, for example?
I think trading is not so common because researchers, they always come to the museum, the collection, because the process to land the specimen is, I think, some kind of complicated. So they come in to visit the museum, and the other pros is they can search other collection, they didn't see that before. Yeah.
That's amazing. So actually, museum collections are not just for the purpose of the local researchers using the collections to understand more about the natural world, but they're actually another point for international collaboration and knowledge exchange as well. Yep. Is that right?
Yeah.
So on your trip across the United States and having seen all these, amazing large museums, what would you hope that we would be able to accomplish as the National Museum in Taiwan when it comes to telling the story of life on Earth?
Yep. I think the recent trend in Taiwan Museum is to establish technology in museum. But after I see the museum in Washington and New York and Raleigh, I don't think they have so much AR technology or something like that. But I think they are classic, but not all. I think our museum have to find our advantage to the audience that we want to tell them some story for them, but not rely on the technology.
There is something really, really extraordinary, isn't there, about seeing a fossil specimen that, even if it's not 100% the real thing, you still can be, I think, in awe of the scale of the specimen and also get a sense of just how diverse life was on Earth before, I think humans, right? Before we kind of took over the planet in many ways. Do you have a favorite fossil? I always ask this because I have many favorite fossils. So I'm very curious on, either from your past experience or from reading books or from this trip, if there's a particular dinosaur that you're really just enamored with.
Oh, one of them is the Raptor because that's my research.
Right.
And I see the cast in the New York Museum, and he has a nickname. She has a nickname because he's called Big Mama. Yeah. Although it's the cast, but I see in presence, it's so cool for me because I only see on the paper, on the reference, right?
So if the New York Museum has the cast, where is the original?
I think it's in the Mongolia because the catalog number is the Mongolia Museum. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I really love how there was an explosion of these discoveries from Mongolia not too long ago, and I also have hopes of seeing some of those original specimens. I think I think Sioux is a really famous specimen, right?
Yes.
And then now they have Apex, the new Stegosaurus at the Natural History Museum in New York, and certainly the Dueling Dinosaurs that we talked about previously. I hope that our listeners, when they travel around the world, have a chance to see some of these astounding fossils. But we also hope, of course, that in Taiwan, we'll be able to show you some of our own endemic fossils in the very near future, even though we don't have dinosaurs, but we have lots and lots of interesting mammals and other specimens since the time that the island formed. So, one last question for you. If a young person was interested in becoming a paleontologist in the future, what kind of things might they be preparing right now as part of that educational journey? What do you think are some of the most important qualities for somebody who aspires to be a paleontologist?
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm on my way to preparing myself to be a paleontologist. But there is a story I want to share. When I was senior high, I was confused about which university do I have to choose to be a paleontology in the future. And one day, I saw a newspaper that reporting a Taiwanese researcher and about his dinosaur research in Germany. And I found his Facebook account and sent him DM. And I don't expect he will reply me because for him, I just a strange senior high school student. Yep. But he replied me a lot of words. And one thing he taught me is the interesting in dinosaur and interesting in dinosaur research are two different things. And doing research would not be always interesting. So I have to understand it before I making my decision. Yeah. So I was so touched and keep in mind until today. So do you know who is that person?
I absolutely can guess. So do you want to reveal the identity of this person right now?
Yep. You can guess. Yeah, it's my boss, Dr. Yang Ziray. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we are certainly very lucky to have him on our museum staff here, on our research staff, and we're very fortunate to have you, somebody who is so talented and enthusiastic and passionate about your work, be part of this conversation. Thank you so much, and we wish you the very best of luck in the next step in your career, and we can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you for being here, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.